Not a half bad Monday across the Northeast. And unfortunately, the much needed rain is still much needed. And we're going to be talking about the pattern for the rest of the week ahead, which doesn't look too ominous, and the weekend, the long range, and we'll even look at the tropics because you know what? They have to wake up eventually, and they just may do that soon. Tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon. And as far as hurricane season goes, if you don't have a generator, good place to go is to Omni to get one with the lowest prices anywhere in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, tri-state area. And of course, if you're thinking about making your yard look good this fall, they still got plenty of mulch. And pretty soon they'll be switching over to salt. 631-756-1125 is the telephone number. And as we all know, the website is
Omni True Value. Oh my goodness. You hear that voice?
Yeah.
OmniTrueValue.com. Joe, I'm losing my voice. I don't know.
What did you do? I mean, it's just fading away. Did you catch something? Cold maybe.
My wife and my daughter have been not too good. My wife has had a cough now for the last week. I think whatever it is has finally decided it was going to come after me. And as you can hear, my voice is not the best, so I may let you do most of the talking tonight.
Oh, well, that's something new. Just teasing, of course. Okay, welcome to everybody tonight on the chat board, and welcome to everybody on the Joe and Joe Weather Show on this Monday night. I am Joe Chaffee, my colleague Joe Rayo on my left, and we're here every night, not every night, usually Monday through Thursdays, although we've been bad boys lately, taking a lot of Thursdays off and making for long weekends. But usually Monday through Thursday at 7:30 Eastern, Sundays at 11 a.m., and on the 2 days that we have off, unless we sometimes will come on if there is a storm brewing and we rearrange the schedule. So have fun, enjoy the show, join the conversation on the chat board, which is oftentimes lively, both before the show and after the show. One thing about this week, and probably even into next week, this coming weekend, Joe, is the fact that the dew points aren't really going anywhere. I was looking at the models, and the GFS and a couple of the others, you don't get to dew points back into the 60s until maybe Monday of next week. So there is some upside here from the standpoint that at least it's comfortable. The rain for this week just is not going to pan. We said yesterday it was just not going to pan out, the widespread rains that we were looking for. And by the way, good pickup by somebody reminding me on the comment section on YouTube about the fact that we talked about this last week. There was that tropical system that was moving westward, and the models were kind of taking an identifiable feature with moisture and sort of wrapping it around a coastal low. Well, guess what? That feature fell apart. So all the pieces in this puzzle that was setting up for this week just did not come together the way it was being advertised. Even as late as Saturday, we were seeing maybe some big rains for somebody, but not to be.
Yeah, and once again, if you go to the National Hurricane Center website, you will find that in the Atlantic and Caribbean, tropical cyclone activity is not expected during the next 48 hours. The Eastern Pacific, we actually do have Yvette. Yvette has formed. Central Pacific, zilch. So we have to hang our hat on Yvette. She's the only one who has been active this week, Joe.
I will say I was looking at when I was looking at the models today. In fact, since I have it up on I've already loaded it, so we might as well take a look at it now. So what I brought up on the GFS is the relative humidity in the North Atlantic, the whole North Atlantic, for the next 2 weeks. And one thing that should be noted, I'm starting, well, in fact, I'm going to just roll it back, starting from today. If you look from Portugal southward along the coast of Africa, and then covering the entire tropical Atlantic, virtually the entire tropical Atlantic between 10 degrees north and 20 degrees north in the brown shading that you see, that's all relative humidities generally under 30%. And in some of the darker browns, we're talking about down around 20 or 15%. It's just absolutely bone dry. The other issue is where you see the blue, well south of the Cabo Verde Islands, and I do mean well south. We're talking down near the equator. That should be sitting between 10 degrees north and 20 degrees north, and it's not. That is where the moisture, that's where you start to see relative humidities in those darker blues at 85, 90, 95, 100%. Now, one thing I did notice on the earlier run, do we have the earlier run, or this is the 18Z? The earlier run and on this run. Now, we go through the weekend. You start to see that moisture field off the African coast begin to push northward. There's a tropical wave that's going to move off the coast sometime later this week. And suddenly the browns start to fade away. And that first wave doesn't really do very much. Another one behind it on this GFS, this is where you start to get some development. And notice that as we go through time, now we're well past, we're talking a week to 10, more than 10 days out, of course. But the models are forecasting that dry air to disappear and the waves to move northward and start moving off between 10 and 15 degrees north, which is where they're supposed to be coming off the African coast. So if we're aiming for maybe the last week of August, is the possibility of the last 7 days of August is maybe then we'll start to see something as far as the tropics are concerned. The GFS and the European, by the way, the European is also showing the same idea here. In fact, the European in the longer range beyond 240 hours is actually even more bullish with regards to tropical cyclone development. So perhaps maybe we're going to be soon on the cusp of systems coming one after another. You got to think, Joe, it's a La Nina year. It can't be like this. If this were an El Nino year, I'd say, okay, fine, it makes total sense. But it doesn't. From what we've known from experience with La Ninas, the Atlantic basin should be going gangbusters, and maybe it will come toward the end of the month.
I noticed that both the 12Z and the 18Z GFS are both signaling that there will be some kind of a disturbance by about the middle of next week, Wednesday or Thursday, coming off of Africa, continuing to move westward, and also gradually, slowly increasing or intensifying, so that by the time we get to about, let's say the 29th or 30th, or even August 31st, we do have what looks to be a good-looking tropical system, be it a tropical storm or maybe a hurricane, a few hundred miles to the east of the Leeward Islands. So maybe, just maybe, you're right, Joe. By the time we get to the end of this month, we will see a system that finally does show signs of developing into our first real tropical weather system that we've had in many, many moons.
Yeah, the other thing, I just pulled up the European, which only goes out to day 10, as the GFS is actually, getting more bullish beyond that. But we can't see beyond day 10 here. But you see the issue with all this the amount of dry air, and it seems to be, if I want to use my imagination here, it seems to be. I'm going to take a look at something. Let me run through the European. You see all the dry air, and the European also gradually through time, as we pass day 5 and day 6, we start to see that dry air gradually disappear, and more importantly, you start to see the wave where the moisture is, instead of being down near the equator, begins to migrate closer to 10 degrees north, and that's very important. But I want to take a look. I want to just go to switch over to Europe, because we haven't really been paying, outside of when they've had all the heat, we really haven't been paying too much attention to what's been going on up there, out there, or over there. And there is the way the ridge is lined up. If you got a lot of moisture over Europe right now, and so as a result, I mean, I'm looking at the edge of the surface here. You've got this northerly flow in the far eastern Atlantic that goes from between Iceland and Greenland straight southward along the coastlines of France and Spain and Portugal, and just continuing down to the African coast. So all this dry air is getting funneled down from the north, and over time, what happens is that ridge finally gets displaced somewhat, and suddenly the flow of dry air is cut off. The flow in the North Atlantic goes from being northerly to westerly, and that is the big difference. And maybe that's having not looked at these maps from that angle, maybe that's what we've had to wait for, is the perpetual heat ridge that's been over Europe to finally go away and establish more of a westerly flow in the North Atlantic, and get rid of that northerly flow that's been funneling down all the dry air further south.
Agreed. Excuse me, Joe. Sorry about that.
The Gunther Reese Award is brought to you by... Oh, I don't know why that came to mind. Okay. So there you have it, at least from the standpoint of the explanation of what's going on in the tropics. And I don't have the loop up, but there really isn't much that the loop is going to show you. So let's go to the U.S. satellite loop. And in the meantime, we have this. You have this troughing in the east, but what good is it if it's not only a broad trough, which was not. It was indicated to be a sharper trough for the digging shortwave. It's a much broader flow. It just sort of, coasts along. You see all this moisture that's coming out of the plains. It's moving southeastward. They had rain this morning in south central and southeastern PA and parts of South Jersey briefly. That went out. And, now we do see clouds there in Pennsylvania and down into Virginia. But it turned out to be a very nice day for most of the area from eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England. The thunderstorms tonight, you see where the lightning flashes are occurring in North Carolina, from just west of Wilmington, right along the South Carolina state line. They run through parts of northwestern Georgia, but the thunderstorm activity is also lacking in the southeast and down through the Gulf states this evening. A little bit going on down in Florida. And just going back to this system that came in from off the Texas coast, this probably would have been a tropical storm had it stayed out over the water a bit longer, because you can still see the satellite signature the way it is, with the way the structure of the clouds are and the turning. So something would have developed had this thing stayed out over water. And it just continues to progress to the northwest. Looks like some of that moisture is going to get into the southwestern part of the United States.
Yeah, just what they need. They've had so much, especially over Arizona, so much in terms of moisture from monsoonal rains and showers. Joe, have you seen some of the activity in Sin City in Las Vegas?
Yes.
They've had a tremendous amount of rain out there over the last several days.
Yeah, and it's fairly active tonight. You see these showers and storms bubbling up. When you look at these satellite loops in the morning in the southwest, there's really not that much. But once the daytime heating gets going, and you have this tropical moisture feed that's coming up from the south, you start to get into some showers and thunderstorms. Now I'm starting to suddenly get a little bit of feedback there, Joe. Uh-oh. Can you switch off back to your regular mic?
No, I just stepped out to get some water, Joe.
Oh, with that.
How do I sound now?
Okay, I'm just. Yeah, the feedback's come back. So maybe you should switch off your headset.
Just
Whoa. This is a test of the emergency broadcast system. This is only a test.
something to lubricate my voice. How does
Now,
this sound?
now it sounds fine. Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
It may have been because I just went inside to get something to drink.
And now I got the feedback. I still have the feedback. No, yeah, take your headsets off and switch off. Go back to regular.
I don't understand what happened.
I don't either. Sorry about that, folks. We've been trying to work on trying to get Joe's headsets back to where we could use them because I keep getting this nasty feedback. Now you're fine. The feedback's gone. And this concludes our test of the emergency broadcast. Do they still do that? I haven't seen one of those in the longest time.
You crazy?
What?
He's drinking V8.
Oh, God.
Throat. It's spicy V8.
That ought to.
Drink this. Familiar, Joe?
Yes. Mine broke.
Okay, drink up.
Thank you, Mommy.
But she gave
you, Joe. I'm telling you, Joe. I can just barely croak right now.
Well, if you feel like you can't, you're not gonna be able to do it, just let me know and we can, you can sign off early if you'd like, and I'll just keep going.
I told her I said you ought to go on in my place tonight.
All right, let's go to the radar here this evening, and there was always something unusual going on here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Some scattered. One thing to note, by the way, while we have this upper trough that's going to be sitting over the east over at least the next couple of days, it's not going to be free and clear of showers. You can see on the radar that there are some scattered showers in parts of Pennsylvania and upstate New York, and there could be some around tomorrow and maybe even again on Wednesday, but they're widely scattered. There are no thunderstorms in that. They're just, light showers. There might be one or two odd cells inland where there might be the odd thunderstorm, but for the most part, the thunderstorm activity, and here's where the Storm Prediction Center had some risks tonight in parts of the Carolinas, and we actually have a tornado warning that's popped up just recently in southeastern North Carolina with some of those showers and storms and pockets of cells and severe weather into Georgia and back over into Alabama. Meanwhile, up in the Great Lakes, we've got an area of rain moving southeastward through Iowa and northern Missouri into western Illinois. And you saw that on the satellite, but that's probably not going to be a factor. And in the southwest, busy with showers and storms, and actually quite a few flash flood warnings up in Southern California, a couple in southern Nevada, northern Arizona, a few flash flood warnings there, also in southern Utah, and through a good chunk of the state of Colorado, some strong thunderstorms developing down to the east of Denver. One of the things with the drought maps that we were looking at in the southwest for all the monsoon rains, and we've said this because the drought there had really, the dry weather in the southwest goes back to last winter. It's been dealing with, they've been getting these monsoon rains for the last 7 or 8 weeks now, and it still hasn't brought down the drought levels. Some areas have gone to moderate drought, but you still have a lot of areas in the southwest that are excessive or extreme. So it takes a lot of water to undo a year's worth of no rainfall. We're not going to see a year's worth of no rainfall here in the Northeast. This drought, our dry spell, will eventually break.
Yeah, the monthly drought outlook has gotten better over portions of the Four Corners area, Utah and Colorado, Arizona and New Mexico. I mean, it's still not great. The drought remains, according to the legend that I'm looking at, but improves. And the drought right now looks like it's going to persist over much of Texas, much of California, and much of Nevada and southern sections of Oregon. But at least in the areas around Utah and Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico, things have gotten a little bit better.
Now, these are 5-day rainfall amounts, so this takes us through Sunday. And you notice the big hole in the northeast for much of eastern Pennsylvania, the northern half of New Jersey, New York City, Long Island, the entire Hudson Valley, most of Connecticut. Not a flake, not an ice pellet, not a raindrop, nothing. Maine does well into New Hampshire with a half to 3/4 of an inch of liquid on the back end and up to about an inch and a half over the next 5 days in eastern Maine and up into New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. You also see rains of several inches across the Carolinas through Georgia into Mississippi and Alabama. The base of that trough extends down far enough south that this is where really the action is. So we should have had that frontal boundary much further to the north, but unfortunately, for as far as rainfall is concerned for the Northeast, for most of the Northeast anyway, the boundary is too far to the south. Meanwhile, you see still continuing to see rainfalls of pockets of an inch and a half plus in Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, and into Utah. So just looking at the overall pattern here for the week on the European, we'll start with that. I think tomorrow is pretty much going to be a repeat performance of today. The only thing about tomorrow is, Joe, the flow is going to be a little more onshore-ish, so it makes me wonder whether there might be some more clouds around tomorrow than there were today. But other than some scattered showers that might form because of the upper trough, well inland and well north, I don't see much happening. The European does key on that coastal low that we were talking about last week. You can see how far offshore it is, and it does bring some rain to southeastern New England. Now, this could be important if this verifies, because southeastern New England, particularly eastern Massachusetts into eastern Rhode Island, are under, what we saw yesterday, what were they under, excessive or extreme drought? I think they were under extreme drought. And
Yes.
this could be, if this is right, the GFS is further east, but if this is right, we could see some of that rain back in westward into southeastern New England during Wednesday. So Tuesday night and Wednesday. So that might be something to look at for you folks in New England. And you see the Europeans fairly bullish with rainfall up into New England as that low moves into the Gulf of Maine and then starts to move northeastward toward Nova Scotia and weakening. And meanwhile, we'll be under a northwest wind on Thursday, drying it out. Well, not even drying it out, just keeping it dry, and also keeping the dew points low, which is really important. And as far as humidity is concerned, that's going to stay that way probably into the weekend. I think the weekend may not be too bad the way it's shaping up.
Renata pointing out on the chat board that dry zone that you had just showed on the 7-day UPF outlook, we're right in the middle here in Putnam County, and we indeed are deep into a drought, no question about it. Joe, the last time that we had significant rain here is about 3 weeks ago. We had and it was on a Monday, we had about 7/10 of an inch. Since then, it's been a brief shower here, a little bit of a downpour for about 2 minutes there. It's been that kind of a situation, back and forth. Otherwise, nothing substantial.
Yeah. One thing, when you're in a pattern like this, it takes a lot to break it, particularly this time of year where you don't have large scale, unless you have a hurricane somewhere. It doesn't have to be here, by the way. If we get you could get a hurricane that forms out in the ocean and it goes up into the North Atlantic into the so-called graveyard and becomes some sort of large extratropical storm. That could be the catalyst that changes the pattern across the United States and across North America, at least perhaps making it a little more likely that we'll see some rainfall. But lacking that, you really, then you're dependent on weather systems coming down from the north, and this time of year, that's not helpful. So here's the GFS tonight. Even the GFS brings some rain into southeastern New England during the day on Wednesday. So that'll be a big plus for those folks, you folks in Boston and in Plymouth and eastern Massachusetts and down into eastern Rhode Island, if that materializes. And then, of course, as I said, after that goes by, you notice the area of rain that's in Iowa actually goes southeastward down into the Gulf states. And that's where the frontal boundary is. It's so far south, so you see showers and thunderstorms around in the southern part of the U.S., way south, but everybody else in between is fairly quiet. And as I roll through, so now we're into Friday, and you can see how dry it is from the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, and into the Northeast. Saturday, there's something on this run, some little wave that develops off the southeast coast and kind of runs northeastward on that boundary but stays offshore. I think we're going to have to wait till early next week where you get a weather system coming out of the plains and going to the Great Lakes, and some sort of warm front comes through here. Maybe from that, later Monday night into Tuesday, we'll get into some showers and downpours. How productive that'll be, I don't know. I'm just looking at this running through on the GFS. I mean, it's really nothing to write home about in terms of rainfall here for the next week or so. And now we're into now we're into fantasy land, day 10 and 11, where there's an active front that comes through August 27th and 28th with a nice cool high, that dry air and high pressure that build in behind it for the last days of the month of August. At least that's how the fantasy land of the GFS is playing it out at this time.
Yes.
You poor guy. Yeah, nothing worse than it reminds me of the Perry Mason episode where I sort of feel like this, where Hamilton Berger shows up in court on crutches and his foot wrapped up in bandages because he, I don't know if William Talman had to have some surgery. And then the very next episode, he clearly has laryngitis, and they wrote it into the script that he had laryngitis. And right. The judge asked him if they wanted a continuance to postpone the trial, and Hamilton said, "No, I'm going to press forward with this as long as I can handle it." So you're channeling Hamilton Berger here for tonight's show. Oh, and by the way, my physical bad luck continues today. So I went to the park for to exercise. I walked 4 miles today, which was really good. And they have outdoor gym equipment at Vogel State Park, so you can work out with weights. And in the middle of my walk, and I'm on a path around a small lake that's there. So I'm coming around the bend. I suddenly feel like a needle sticks me. I got stung by a yellow jack, Joe. Guess where he stung me?
In the tush?
No. In my ankle. In my formerly dislocated ankle. Right?
Oh, just lovely.
Yeah, just lovely. And for the next hour, it hurt. I mean, it really hurt. It just went in there, and it felt like somebody stuck a needle in there and didn't pull it out. So for an hour, I was in sheer agony. And but I trudged through it. I finished my walk. I did my exercises. I'm much better now. But with my luck, he stings me on. It stings me on the ankle that I have. I'm still recovering from my injury. I mean, I'm not in the boot or anything, and I'm walking around on my feet, but it's still swollen from the surgery. So the swelling hasn't gone completely down yet. So now I've got swelling from this yellow jack sting that I got. So anyway, do you have Briller Jeopardy tonight? I mean, I know you unless you're not, do you want to save it for tomorrow since you got no voice?
I'm going to check for a second. I'm not sure. I did see a message from Scott Briller earlier today, but let's see what I have here.
We were going to do something different this week. We're going to have it's actually, I think the way he was going to set it up was that it's for everybody. So you folks on the chat board, it's actually the questions are going to be directed at you, so you're going to answer them.
I've noticed over the last 2 years of Briller Jeopardy that the Joes like Briller Jeopardy from the 1960s and earlier, where the chat board prefers later Briller Jeopardy. So this week, the category 1980s and 1990s, the chat board messages their answers, and Joe will see who is correct. And I'll ask this: if we could put this off until tomorrow.
Fine.
And hopefully tomorrow. My throat doesn't hurt, but obviously you can hear that it doesn't exactly sound great to continue.
Gargle with warm water and apple cider vinegar.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't swallow the apple cider vinegar because it's god awful stuff.
No.
All right, so let's put it off. So everybody on the chat board, be ready for tomorrow because the questions will be directed at you, so you will be able to answer them, and we'll have some fun doing things a bit differently. So thanks, Scott Briller, for that. All right, so you know what? Let's wrap it up tonight early. There's not a whole lot going on, so we'll just wrap it up, and we'll be back tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern Time. So please join us. Joe, take care of your voice, and we will we'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, the good Lord willing.
Exactly. Bye-bye.
Bye, folks.